Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 17 of the Vuelta a España 2024, brought to you by Lupine Lights. Lupine Lights, the finest lights I've ridden throughout my career, and I've been riding them since 2019. They have settings and apps on your phone so you can adjust all the different brightness of your bulbs, and of course a Bluetooth connectivity to be able to adjust it anywhere from your person. If you're looking to save 24% on your next order of Lupine Lights, use the code LupineLights24. Now let's get into today's stage 17. A little bit of a sleeper at the beginning of the stage, but it's going to be really exciting the last 30 kilometers of today's race. At 141 kilometers, we'll call it 90 miles in length, that means it's a short stage. When you look at the profile with two big climbs in the center, steep ones anyways, about 5.5 to about 7 kilometers long, but we're talking about 8.5 and 7.5 pitches on the first climb and the second climb, so they're wicked steep. Now when the racing comes on, the cameras pop on, we got about 110 kilometers to go in today's race, and we see a break of 4 riders up there. Thibaut Gernelec is up there from Arkea Samsic. Jonas Grego is in the group from Lotto Destiny. We see Xavier Isasa in there from Escatel Escady, and Tomas Champion from Cofidis. With those 4 riders and a gap going up and over 4 minutes, when I was watching Flow Bikes originally, well, they were having some problems getting it to the screen there without it just blanking out all over the place. So I thought I'd switch over to Peacock. So once I started watching Peacock, it's Bob Roll and Christian Vandervelde calling the race, and the gap's at over 4 minutes, possibly even 4.5, when Christian Vandervelde starts talking about, I think these guys, when we look at the Peloton, should give the break of 4 more time. Well, it's at least 4 minutes when he said it. And he's talking about giving them an extra minute, so he's talking about 5.5 minutes time. And I'm thinking, this is a short stage. We go back and look at the Peloton pulling, who's not giving much time to this break. Christian Vandervelde's words, not mine. And we see it's Albacin de Koenig on the front. Kern Pharma's riding on the front. And of course, we see DSM with Pavel Bittner. Pavel Bittner's won a stage here. Caden Groves won stages here at the Vuelta a España, many throughout his career. So that's why those 2 teams are chasing. And Kern Pharma's chasing because they got Pal McHale. Now, with those 3 teams chasing, and they're all sprinters on the team, Christian Vandervelde saying we should give them more time. I'm like, give them more time? How much more time do you want to give them? 5.5 minutes, and we haven't even started the next 2 climbs that are 7.5 and 8% pitches. You can't give these 4 guys more time. They're going to go up the climb full gas, but the 3 teams back there don't have the choice of going full gas because they have sprinters on their team. Albacin de Koenig, you would say, well, Caden Groves can climb good, probably as good as any one of these 4 guys in the front break. But when you go over the top of the 2 climbs, Albacin de Koenig are not going to be able to close up that 4.5 minute gap up to those 4 riders when they started the climb proper. So if you're going over the top of the last climb and it's still 71 kilometers into the finish of today's stage, you got to have some other teams. Now, if Wout van Aert was still here, okay, you got Visma Lease Bike pulling. Those 2 teams could go fast up the next 2 climbs, but without the help of Visma Lease Bike, Albacin de Koenig cannot afford to go fast up the next 2 climbs because they need Kern Pharma, because they need DSM riding the front for sure when you come off the last climb with 70 kilometers to go. Now we look at the 4 riders hitting the first category climb here on today's stage 17 of the Vuelta a España. They're not messing around. They're starting to put in some accelerations, and we're talking about some steep pitches of 15%. We start getting nearing the top of the first climb, and we see it's Escatel Escade, Asasa, all of a sudden getting dropped out of this group of 3. They're not waiting. They're still going full gas, and Asasa is going to have to find his way back up to the front group. But when they go over the top of the KOM and the gap is still at a 4.5 minute gap on the Peloton, it's 3 riders. Then they drop down the descent. We see Tomas Champion from Cofidis. He's got his leg out, his hand up. He's waving his hand all over the place. He's kicking his rear derailleur. We see the Shimano moto car come up to him. He's having all kinds of arguments there with the motorbike, and that's because he's got bike problems right now. So now they got to slow down in the front group there. They slow down, and we'll see before the start of the next climb, somewhere in between the descent and the start of the next climb, we see that Asasa gets back on. There's 3 guys in front, but there's still 1 in the back because Champion hasn't gotten back on. Now he gets a little bit of help from the team car there with the bottle, and he holds on. That'll get him back on before we start the last climb here. Once we see 4 riders going up this climb, we're going to see Asasa have to pull over and then do a bike change. Now, that got me curious. Maybe he wasn't getting dropped on the first climb. Maybe he was having a bike issue, because when you look, he doesn't have the number plate on his bike. When he comes back, he does have the number plate on his bike. So it wasn't a matter of legs, it was a matter of a mechanical problem on the first change, and then he was switching back to his race bike, his original race bike, for the second. Now we got 4 guys, they're going over the top of the KOM. It's about a 4-minute and 40-second gap on the Peloton. I'll show you some pictures of the Peloton going up the climb where it's so narrow, it's about 3 wide, 4 wide maximum, and they're going through farm fields where it's muddy and nasty roads, so the Peloton has to be careful going down the descent. Why did I bring that up? Well, when we see the 4 guys going down the descent, they can blaze through the descent because they're small, narrow, and there's not much of a line there, so they can go full gas, and the Peloton's not going to be able to go faster than the 4 guys. So if I bring you back to Christian Vandervelde's comment where they should have given, the Peloton should have given these 4 riders an extra minute before they started that climb, well, remember, they would have been at about 5:40 going over the top of that climb, and the Peloton still can't start bringing them back until you get off the climb because it's twisty, technical, and of course the Peloton's going to be in pieces. Plus, nobody wants to crash. Caden Groves doesn't want to crash. And of course, when we start looking at DSM, Pavel Bittner, he doesn't want to crash. Paul McHale there, he wants a shot at winning the sprints in today's stage 17 too. So that's why they got to keep everything mellow coming down the descent, and they're not gaining much time. Once we get in the valley, though, this is going to be a different story. The Peloton's going to go to work. These 3 teams are throwing down. It's strung out, splitting the Peloton in half. We'll see a second group back there with about 35, 40 kilometers to go, and it's a big group of about 25 riders. AG2R got a rider in this group right here. Maybe it's Felix Gall. I can't tell. The picture's too hard to tell. But they already started with 1 less rider at the beginning of today's stage here when De Pestel didn't start today's stage. So now for sure, Ben O'Connor's losing teammates here on stage 17, and this is a sprinter stage. Well, the guys up front, the 3 teams, drilling it like crazy. The 4 riders are holding a gap of just about 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the Peloton behind with 30 kilometers to go. We start coming into 22 kilometers to go. Things are going to get interesting here. The gap's at 1:30 and there's a bump. We'll see up front is Thibaut. He's throwing down for Arkea Samsic, and everything he's got, he is putting into the pedals. And Tomas Champion from Kofi, this is paying the price at the moment on this bump with about 22 kilometers to go. We go up a little bit further. Champion's recovered. And you see Thibaut just went a little bit too hard because he's starting to blow. He finally needs to get a little bit of help at the top of the summit, but they're trying to extend the gap out to the Peloton. That's why he's going full gas. Maybe went a little too deep at the beginning there, but now we're coming over the top here with 4 riders. Now we come into 20 kilometers to go. The gap's down under a minute. Now we got a bit more of a climb, more than a bump right now, and we see that there's 2 riders sitting on the back. It's Izaza there from Escatel Escady, and Champion sitting on the back as well. We saw him get a little bit popped there when that bump with 22 kilometers ago. So they're sitting on the back. Thibaut is driving it like crazy. Now the lights from the cars are shining brightly because it's getting darker. It's completely soaked. It started raining off and on throughout the stage, but at 30 kilometers ago, it really started. Now under 20 kilometers ago, as they're going up this bump, it is dark, and there's some ugly faces coming out of the guys in the front group, with Thibaut pulling full gas in this front group and Jonas Gregor helping them going up this climb, but the other 2 guys can't. Their legs are starting to blow. So it's 2 guys rotating on the front, 2 guys sitting on, and ugly faces all over in the breakaway. We go back to the Peloton, wicked speeds back there from the 3 teams as they're throwing everything into it. When the camera comes back, we see Bora Hansgrohe, Primoz Roglic. He's got 4 guys wrapped around him. We go behind him, Enric Mas. He's got 2 guys there, so 3 total from Movistar. EF Education have 4 riders, and Mikel Landa has 3 teammates with him, so they got good numbers, but you can tell everyone's having a hard stage 17 here, or they would have 6, 7, 8 numbers up there. Instead, the guys are reduced down, except Bora Hansgrohe looks pretty good with Primoz Roglic. Now we go further back and look at the back end of the Peloton. They're all swinging back there from the speed of the 3 teams in the front. We come into 16 kilometers to go. My man Victor Campenaerts is throwing an attack for Lotto Destiny. Is he a knucklehead? I can't call him a knucklehead. He's got his teammate up there in the front, Jonas Gregor, who's still got some form, but the gap's down to under 55 seconds right now, and I'm thinking, well, he can't be a knucklehead, so there must be other reasons. What are the other reasons that my man Victor Campenaerts, and your man, most of your men anyways, out there sitting on the Chesterfield, love this guy? Well, he's attacking right now because he's trying to disrupt the flow of the 3 teams back there or he's realized that the gap's coming far enough down that they need more power up there. So Victor Campenaerts is going, but the three teams behind him are chasing him, pulling him back, and staying well gelled together. Now, as they bring back Victor Campenaerts, we're coming into 13 kilometers ago. Now it's getting interesting and dangerous here at the professional Peloton. If it wasn't dangerous enough coming down the two descents back there with 80 kilometers and 70 kilometers to go, now it's getting dangerous because we're coming into the finish of the stage and it's 13K to go as they're hitting roundabouts left and right. They'll come through one roundabout and come out. We see it's Riccatello right there from Israel, Premier Tech, the last rider and the Peloton. He's swinging on the back, sprinting like crazy. He's a climber. He's a little guy. He can't quite close the gap. And bam! He's coming out the back now, the Peloton. Now we come into the next roundabout. It's followed by a bump. Once they exit and come up this bump, we see Albacete de Koenigs now having some problems because it's Oscar Riesebek coming out the back of the group. You've been fantastic throughout this stage. Tip of the hat. Now we go up front, just under 12 kilometers to go. Thomas Champion from Cofidis, he's got popped. We got three riders now in the front group. Thibaut is still driving like a madman. Jonas Grego is doing monster pulls up there. Escudi, Isasa is doing a fantastic work, but the Peloton's hot on the heels as we're coming in to 10 kilometers to go. It's about a 35 second gap on the 3 leaders now up front. Now we come into under 8 kilometers to go. The Peloton's starting to get a little bit wider. As we get into 7.5, Bora Hansgrohe's coming up the left side. They're trying to keep Primoz Roglic in a good position. Remember, you got to get into the safety zone here in case there's a crash. Primoz Roglic doesn't lose time because he's only 5 seconds back on the red race leader's jersey of Ben O'Connor. So Bora Hansgrohe's flying up the left side, but then we come into another roundabout. It strings out again, still with the same 3 teams on the front, driving as hard as they can, trying to bring back the 3 leaders. Under 4 kilometers, about 3.7, we're going to see the 3 leaders are in sight from the Peloton there. And then as we hit a little bump with 3 kilometers to go, with Thibaut Gernelek up there throwing everything into it, they're just about wrapped up. We're coming into 2.7 kilometers to go. There's attack from the Peloton. Who is it shooting out of the group? It's the Swiss champion back there from Jaco Lula. That's Mario Schmid, and DSM's Max Poole is following shortly behind there of Mario Schmid. The Peloton now, it's not all friendlies, right? DSM's got a rider going up with Mario Schmid, and DSM stop working. So Albacete de Koenigs, Zandro Mayus is on the front. He's up there solo. He's got 2 DSM riders sitting on his wheel. Then he's got Ed Plankard back there, followed by Caden Groves, their sprinter. We go back up and look what's happening with Mario Schmid. He's flying, catching the breakaway guys. The last one, Thibaut Gernelek from Arkea Samsic. Tip of the hat up here on the butterfly effect as your day finishes right now. But Mario Schmid's throwing everything into it with Max Poole locked on his wheel. The next attack coming out of the Peloton, though, it's going to be our man, Victor Campenaerts. Lotto Destiny's got a second attack effort left in his legs. He's shooting across the gap. We're coming into about 1.7 kilometers to go when we come into the left turn, but Campenaerts is not quite locked onto the wheel. Now the Peloton's going to start getting an overhead shot from the helicopter. As we look at the Peloton coming in this left turn, we see DSM sitting second wheel behind Albacete de Koenigs, Zandro Mayus up there. We see just behind them on the right side, Caden Groves. Edward Plankard's just a little bit back there. We see Kern Farmer still in a fine spot with 2 riders because their sprinter Powell wants a shot at winning today's stage 2. They'll come out of this left turn. DSM's going to open up a gap on Mayus there when we're talking about 1.3 kilometers to go. Mayus is riding incredibly intelligent at this moment. He looks over his shoulder, realizes he's got a gap, and then he's going to ease up. As he eases up, the camera's fine. My man Victor Campenaerts, he's bridged the gap. There's 3 riders again in the front group here. Mario Schmid's on the front. Max Poole sitting second for DSM, and Lotto Destiny's Campenaerts sitting third. But the gap is narrow, and Mario Schmid's not getting any help back there from the 2 riders sitting on his train. We go back now into about 1.1 kilometer to go. We're not quite under the Flamme Rouge, and we see Ed Plankard knows what he has to do as DSM don't want to close the gap and sit on the wheel there of Albacete de Koenigs, Zandro Mayus. So Ed Plankard's coming up the right side. As he's coming up the right side, he's got a sprinter on his wheel, Caden Groves. Ineos rider on the right. I'll call him Kim Heiduck right now, but I'm taking a guess. Kim Heidak gets a little nudge on the hip there, not a bump, not at all, just a little friendly nudge elbow from Caden Groves, and that holds the gap open as Caden slides through on the wheel of his leadout man, Ed Plankert. Ed Plankert goes up and latches onto the back wheel of Zonder Mayus. Now we got 3 Albertine de Koenig riders leading the peloton, chasing 3 riders in front. We're coming up to 500 meters to go. There's the last final dip here in stage 17. Not the last obstacle, but the last dip in the road. As we see with 450 meters to go, Ed Plankert hits out because he's got to close the gap to the 3 riders in front. We're coming up to 350 meters to go, and it's a right turn. As we see, Schmid is on the front. Schmid's been running on the front since 2.7 kilometers to go, and he's got 2 wheel suckers on his wheel. One is our man Victor Campenaut's last, and Max Poole still sitting on in second place. Now we see Ed Plankert's close the gap. Caden Groves is sitting there. Corbin Strong's a little further back. Powell's in the picture from Kern Pharma, and we see it's Vito back there from Intermarché. As they come through this right bend, we're going to exit with 300 meters to go on the left side of the road because it's wet, nasty. Look at the leaves spread all over the road. You know it's been dangerous throughout stage 17, and now we're exiting with 300 meters to go. Mario Schmid starting to blow. We look at the sprint and attack starting in the back. Poole starts the acceleration. Victor Campenaut starts the jump, and behind him it's Ed Plankert starting his jump too. Ed Plankert brings everybody up, so we're 4 wide going across the road at about 200 meters to go, but Ed Plankert went from the left all the way to the right side, but left a little room there for sprinter Caden Groves. As we come into 175 meters to go, Caden Groves started his kick. Now we're coming up. We're 5 wide, but Caden Groves coming with a ton of speed. So he's got the lead with 150 meters to go. He's holding it into about 50 meters to go. Caden Groves is going to look back left over his shoulder, see if anybody's coming. Nobody's coming, so it's time right now for Ed Plankert to celebrate. He throws a victory salute to the right arm. Caden Groves wants to be 100% sure, so he's going to throw his bike across the line to win today's stage 17. Then as he's winning, he doesn't have time because he threw his bike, so when we go back and look at Ed Plankert, he's got time to raise both arms. Now the cameras come back and find Caden Groves. He's got time too, so he sits up, a little bit of a smirk on his face, and then he's got both arms in the air up high, starts waving to the crowd, followed by a thumbs up. Then he's going to cross the line after winning today's stage 17. He's going to have hugs from his teammates and, of course, photos with a few of his other teammates before it's all done. Second on today's stage, when we look at the podium, well, we know right now that's Pavel Bittner back there from DSM. Third on the stage would be Vito from Intermarché to round out the podium. And our man Victor Campenaut, he finished 6th on today's stage. Congratulations, Vic, for a nice showing. 2 attacks. Were you knucklehead? You're not going to hear that from me. I think you were back there just trying to disrupt the whole peloton so you can slow them down or get some more power up into the front group. But maybe I'm a little biased. Now, when we look at the GC, nothing changed in the top 10, but there was a little bit of a significant change when we look at Alexander Vlasov because he lost almost 10 minutes on today's stage, which means Bora Hansgrohe cannot play that kind of card in the mountain stages to come here at the Vuelta a España. Vlasov's chances of being a threat up there is basically null and gone right now for Bora Hansgrohe, so that could be interesting. Probably won't be, but could be. Otherwise, Ben O'Connor holds on to the race leader's red jersey. Top 10 stays the same. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for stage 18 of the Vuelta a España real soon.